Alright, hello there, my name is Eli, and today I just wanted to do a Magic the Gathering deck review of one of my favorite decks and probably one of the most aesthetically pleasing decks on this planet. So, starting off, I guess we should just start off with the commander here, Adeline. So she is the Resplendent Cathar, and the neat thing about Adeline is that she gets better the more players you're playing with. So whenever she or one of your creatures attacks, she creates a 1/1 white human that is also tapped and attacking each of those opponents. So, three opponents, you get three soldiers, or rather three humans every single turn. So she's pretty darn cool. And I've got her absolutely dripped out in the super shiny gold sleeve. Where am I? It's not that good. It's not that good. All right. So next I thought I would just kind of show off our basic lands here. Just kind of quickly, we've got a lot of beautiful, beautiful artworks. These Therese Nelson artworks with the watercolor are just gorgeous. I love this one with the little dudes way off in the background. That one's pretty nice. Oh, this one's also really nice, just with the angels descending and a rock knob over here in the left side. Pretty sweet. Oh, and then the Urza Saga's lands. These are probably some of my favorite lands in the entire game. They're just gorgeous. Got the zebras, of course. Gotta have the zebras. And, the thing about Magic the Gathering is that it's really a game of customization when you get down to it. You can put whatever you want into any deck, but why not make it aesthetically pleasing? That's what I always say. And then, of course, Temple of the False Gods on the end here with the little dude. He's just staring in wonder and just quite amazed at the splendor before him. Those who bring nothing to the temple take nothing away. And I mean, this guy, what's he got to offer? His rad cape and his spear? Probably not going to offer those up. All right, and now the meat and potatoes of this whole video is, the deck itself. So, I don't have these in any particular order. I think I was just kind of planning on going through them. But a theme will emerge in this deck. I hope as we watch here. So the first one we have here is Path of Bravery. It's an enchantment, and this essentially rewards me for being above half, or rather, this rewards me for being above full health. Gives all my creatures +1/+1. And then statically throughout the game, whenever I attack with a creature, I gain 1 life for each creature attacking. So that's pretty huge with Adeline. I mean, even if it's just her attacking every turn, I'm getting 4 life if I'm sitting at a table with 3 other people. So, mathematically, very advantageous card. Speaking of a mathematically advantageous card, an absolutely ridiculous card that I have here, and you're going to notice that it says Sarah Ascendant at the top. However, that is not the artwork for Sarah Ascendant. Let's get a closer look on some of these cards here. So this is my proxied edition of Sarah Ascendant. She's a 1 white mana cost human monk creature, and get this, she's got lifelink off the bat, but as long as I have 30 or more life, Sarah Ascendant gets +5/+5 and has flying. She starts off as a 1/1, as you can see down here. So in Commander, you're starting off at 40 health. So you play this beautiful lady turn 1, and you have a 6/6 flyer that heals you 6 damage every time she attacks. That's just ridiculous. That is what makes this a $25 card if you buy it normally, and that is what caused me to do, some beautiful watercolor work here. I did this watercolor, and then my girlfriend, Abby Rose, she went ahead and did the handwriting and the doodles for me, and then Rebecca Gay, or Rebecca Guay, I'm not sure which, she did the beautiful illustration of who I interpreted to be a perfect Sarah Ascendant for this card. So, you know, a three-way, one might say, a three-way effort of just artistic skills to make this card come together, and I saved $25 doing so. It's a beautiful card. I'm glad I have it. Next up, we got the Swiftfoot Boots. I really like this edition of Swiftfoot boots that they released with the D&D set. They're just really cute, and you know the guy's hustling. What can I say? Probably the only version of Sun Titan that I'm really willing to play because the other one's Golden Locks kind of intimidate me, and I'm not sure I like him too much. But this guy, dual wielder, so highly respectable, very cool Sun Titan, and quite shiny, as you might be able to tell. Next up, we got Soul Warden. This is a really, really good creature for this deck, especially 1 mana. Whenever any other creature comes into play, gain 1 life. So I'm gaining life off of my own creatures that I'm creating every turn, and I'm gaining life off of the creatures that, you know, my opponents are going to be casting or creating. So Soul Warden is an extraordinarily good card. She can gain you easily 20 life in a game, easily. Here is one of the win conditions, or one of part of the win conditions. This deck doesn't have a full-blown win condition, but something that would really help is giving all of my creatures double strike and lifelink. I'm just going to be healing a ridiculous amount of life, and I'm going to be doing a ridiculous amount of damage. So ideally, I have enough creatures that, you know, I'm not going to be able to have them all be blocked by whatever my opponents have. And hopefully these extremely buff ladies and gentlemen are going to help lead me to victory. Speaking of victory, we've got Knighthood. Oh, can this focus any better? We've got Knighthood. Love this card to death. One of Adeline's biggest downsides, as you might notice, is that her power is equal to the number of creatures I control, but her toughness stays at 4. So if I can do something to give her first strike, like this enchantment does, then it makes it so that all of that power that she does really becomes applicable, because she's not going to be taking the damage back that she normally would be taking. She's hitting first and taking damage later, so that 4 health really starts to not matter as much when you get this Knighthood card out. It also has some nice flavor text brought to us by Radiant the Archangel. He has returned, he who brought the Dark Ones, he who poisoned our paradise. How shall we greet him? With swift and certain death. Super duper edgy. Next, we have the Endless Atlas. As you saw before, I had about probably 20-ish planes in this deck. So this card, it lets me draw a card if I pay to, as long as I have 3 or more lands with the same name. I'm always going to have that with those planes. The Dictate of Heliod, another absolutely gorgeous card. You flash it in for 5 mana, gives your creatures +2/+2. Short, simple. In our war, Heliod gave mortals some favor, yet other times he withheld aid. Are we still no more than game pieces to him? Absolutely not. Heliod really doesn't care about humans too much, really only cares about himself. Typical god. Here is probably the best pacifism art ever printed. Came out of the 7th edition set. This man has just decided to leave it all behind, including his shoes and socks. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. And without warriors, there can be no war. So if someone's got a major problem on their side, I'm just going to slap them with some pacifism. I'm going to strip their armor off of them. I'm going to make them mostly naked. And they're not going to be able to do anything about it. And they're going to be barefoot in the snow. And they're going to be really uncomfortable with that. Next up, we have the Marble Diamond. Just sort of, possessing a diamond, holding a diamond. Comes into play tapped, add 1 white to your mana pool. I had to get the classic border Marble Diamond. It just really wasn't even an option to not pick this card up. It's just beautiful. Look at the size of that gem. Absolutely enormous. Increasing Devotion. Now, this is one of those cards that is integral to this deck. What it does is it puts 5 1/1 white human creature tokens onto the battlefield. And then, of course, if you cast it from your graveyard for bonus mana down here, you get 10 of them instead. That's huge. Adeline, sure, she makes her human creature tokens, but that's not enough. You need a couple other sources that are putting bonus human tokens onto the battlefield so that you can just swarm your enemies. You're wanting to create an absolutely unstoppable army and then throw down something like that increasing devotion from, oh, or rather, what was it? Increasing, you know, the one that gives double strike and lifelink. I mean, some of these, you know, 2-3 card combinations are going to be absolutely oppressive and really tough to stop. So this is a great card for this deck. I really, really like it. Next up, Emiria Shepherd. This is one of the recursion cards for this deck. So that means that it's one of the ways that this deck has to get things back out of my graveyard after they've died. So she says whenever a land enters the battlefield, especially if it's a plains, I can return a non-land permanent from my graveyard to the battlefield. That's just awesome. It's huge. It's a really, really good card. Here's a card that we have to put a spotlight on. My copy of Path to Exile, a Rebecca Gway art. Absolutely stunning. One of my favorite cards in all of Magic the Gathering. Just take that card in. Look at how gorgeous it is. Of course, it's a holo, so it's nice and shiny. I mean, I'd be happy dying today if I could look like that knight and just have my forlorn lover standing in the wake, you know, of the sea of my vessel being pushed off to sea. It's just beautiful. It inspires a romanticism in the hearts of men and women alike. And I just think that you know, it's just one of those things. It's one of those artworks that I absolutely had to have. I just had to have it. And so I did. I got it. Next up, we've got Soul's Attendant. So we've got Soul's Attendant. This does the exact same thing as Soul's something or other. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may gain 1 life. So again, I'm just trying to gain life. And a really nice artwork. She's beautiful. Of course, you have to have the Elspeth. This Elspeth is extremely good. You play her for 6 mana. The turn she's played, you +1 her loyalty up to 5. And you get 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. I mean, that's just huge. And then after that, you can board wipe, or if you get lucky, you can go ahead and give all your creatures +2/+2 in flying. But the big thing here is that every turn, unless someone kills her, you're putting 3 additional white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. So you're starting to see that army theme coming alive with cards like this. Really, really nice card. I mean, she is a badass. She is just so cool. She's got the titty armor. She's got the wicked sword spear. Very, very cool card. Next, I have the Tome of Legends. So, you know, this is just another way to draw cards in this deck. When my commander enters or attacks, I get a page counter. I can pay 1 to remove a page counter and draw a card. Simple as that. Yet another way for me to draw cards in this deck. Whenever I attack, I investigate, and then I can pay 2 to sacrifice the clue that's created from investigating to enter the dungeon and draw a card. So, pretty nice card. Vanquish the Horde. So we have Audric. Audric took no joy in violence, but neither did he mourn for the twisted things he dispatched. All that mattered were the lives he had saved. I get strong Anakin vibes off of that quote. But Audric, you know, he costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and then you destroy all creatures. So the likelihood that this is a 2 mana destroy all creatures spell is quite high. Great board wipe. I'm casting this when I'm a little bit behind. I'm casting this when I have something like Sun Titan in my hand. Then in that situation, I'm fine. Just let Adeline die. Next turn, I cast Sun Titan. I get her back. No big deal. But this is really helpful for when you've got an army of tree-dwelling elves just absolutely sniping you left and right, summoning hydras, trampling over all of your poor little humans. Just go ahead, board wipe them. You'll be fine in this white deck. You'll come back. Speaking of those win conditions earlier, Here we have Cathar's Crusade. So we've got everyone on their horses. They're marching off for a nice little crusade. They don't mind who gets in the way. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under my control, I put a 1/1 counter on each creature I control, including the one that just entered. And consider this. I'm sitting at a table. I have 3 opponents sitting across from me. I attack with Adeline. That makes 3 1/1 human soldiers. That means that 3 creatures enter the battlefield. Therefore, I put 3 1/1 counters on each creature I control. That happens every single turn until you destroy this. Sooner or later, you're dead. You cannot handle that much damage. Cathar's Crusade is an absolutely excellent card, especially in this deck. It's just phenomenal. Okay, next up, we've got another one of my proxied cards. This one, Divine Visitation. Let's see if it can... There we go. Divine Visitation costs 3 mana, 3 colorless, and 2 white mana. This is, you know what? This is a win condition in this deck. This is absolutely a win condition in this deck. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 White Angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. What's better than 3 1/1 white humans every turn? 3 4/4 white flying angels with vigilance every turn, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely bonkers card. This one I saved about $10 or maybe $15. It's not as expensive, but I just have decided that I don't feel like spending money on this game anymore. So, you know, again, went ahead and did the watercolor myself. I thought I did a great job matching the tones to the existing art on the background. And again, we've got Rebecca Guay. I just love her artwork. And, you know, she's sort of like my artistic idol, I think, right now. I just can't get enough of her stuff, and so I'm just packing it into my decks in the form of proxy cards. So there you have it. Next up, Honor of the Pure. You know, give all your white creatures +1/+1. Short, simple, to the point. The Intrepid Hero, my favorite artwork for Intrepid Hero, she's just coming down from the skies to absolutely slash and bash this ogre right in its mono eye. You tap her to destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That's a really great ability, especially to use on, you know, people's commanders. Like, I'm just going to tap this. And guess what? She's dead. Mind Stone, it's a mana rock, and it draws you a card later on in the game. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. Sigrid, now this is a card that I actually really, really like having in here, even though aesthetically, she doesn't quite match her surroundings. You know, she's a Viking warrior whereas everyone else is kind of a soldier, a knight-like soldier. But regardless, you flash her in whenever someone's attacking or blocking you, and then she exiles that attacking or blocking creature. So really nice card just to, you know, quick and easy, just get rid of something. And then you've got yourself a 2/2 first strike. And the protection from god creatures is actually pretty big. There are definitely a lot of people that play with the god creatures and, you know, even as their commanders. So this can definitely give you some utility, a lot of utility with this card. Speaking of utility, Banishing Light, a really nice holo of Banishing Light. This one, it enters the battlefield and it just exiles any permanent, any non-land permanent until it leaves the battlefield. And so that's gonna either force someone to use their enchantment removal on Banishing Light, or more likely, their stuff is just gonna be gone for the rest of the game. They're one thing. So that's a really nice card. I really like it. The Court Street Denizen. So whenever a white creature enters, I tap a creature that an opponent controls. Ideally, I'm making 3 white creatures every turn, so I'm tapping 3 of my opponent's creatures every turn. This is like a 1-cent card, but it's deceivingly good in this deck. I'm just tapping down other people's creatures all day long. The Loyal Warhound. You gotta have your mana ramp. If someone else has more lands than you, he enters and you get a plains. Devout Invocation. Tap any number of untapped creatures I control, and then I put a 4/4 White Angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield for each tapped creature. So, you know, let's say later on in the game, I've got a bunch of soldiers, I got a bunch of humans, and they're just not getting through my opponent's lines of defenses. I throw this down, I tap them all, and make a bunch of angels, and all of a sudden my opponents have a serious issue on their hands. Next up, I have Revitalize, just a really nice little card. It's really pretty. I've got a knight there, and she's just getting revitalized. She's gaining 3 life, and she's drawing a card. So, pretty decent. We've got another Elspeth. This is the slightly more edgy version of Elspeth. Again, though, I'm making soldiers, or I'm making humans with this card. So, her -2 is make 2 white human soldier creature tokens. So, significantly worse than her sister. However, still a nice card to be, pumping out some extra bodies. Got the Hedron Archive, mana ramp, and card draw later on in the game. Super nice. A little bit more mana ramp. He does the same thing as that dog, essentially. So finds me a land if I'm behind. Righteousness. So this is a really sneaky card that I like to use. I kind of like to pretend that I'm going to sacrifice Adeline. Like, okay, I guess I'll block with Adeline, She only has 4 health, but I guess I'll block. And then boom, for 1 mana, I slap this down. I make Adeline as righteous as can be. Give her +7/+7, and all of a sudden, you're not getting through that. She's got 11 health. She's humongous, and she's doing even more damage. So I super love this card. It's beautiful. I love that she's just, caressing her claymore. Very cool card. Return to Dust. An absolutely necessary card for this deck. You can exile up to 2 artifacts and enchantments with that. Another necessary card, we have Glorious Anthem, and I love the angel in the background. We've got 2 soldier bros sort of, happy to be here. North and south meet and angels sing. Voices resound with a righteous ring. And that's the Ballad of Paladins. It just gives all my creatures +1/+1. I mean, that's just completely awesome. Not to mention, the artwork is just gorgeous. Therese Nielsen, another one of my favorite artists in this game. And she threw down a banger with this one. I love it. Captain of the Watch. She makes 3/1/1 soldiers, and she gives all of your soldiers vigilance. Excellent card. Excellent card. She's really cool. She as well has the titty armor. Even more prominent titty armor than Elspeth. And I think that titty armor, I think it's got some legitimacy, But it's not as much legit. I mean, she's got to be packing some absolute honkers for the need for this armor. Historically speaking, I think that there is a need for titty armor. However, I don't think that there's any need for it to be this pronounced. I think that it could be a little bit more subtle. That's all I'm saying. The Commander's Plate, a very nice card for this deck. I put it on Adeline. She gets +3/+3, and then she has protection from red, green, blue, and black. That's just super good. That's just a really good card. And speaking of really good cards, we have my version of Anointed Procession. It's an enchantment. If an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. So, the obvious thing here, Adeline, she makes me a token for each opponent. With this, she makes me 2 tokens for each opponent. But then we have those other cards like Divine Invocation, where instead of making, where it says, or that one, I've got cards in there that make tokens, the Elspeths, the other sorceries. This is also pinging off those. So the one that I'm waiting for to happen, which one was it? I mean, this card is just so good in 2 and 3 card combos. This card with Cathar's Crusade, absolutely bonkers. This card with that one that when you cast it from your graveyard, it makes 10 tokens instead. You make 20 tokens with Anointed Procession. It's absolutely an insane card, and that's why it's almost a $30 card, $30 or $40 card, and that's why I went ahead and, I put my own artistic flair, and look at how good the artwork is for this. I mean, if that doesn't say Anointed Procession, nothing does. And again, the handwriting and the doodles are by Abby Rose, and it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. I'm in love with the proxies that I've made for this deck. And I really hope you guys like those too. So let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, we have the Attended Knight, one of the more simple cards in this deck. She's got first strike. She enters. She makes a 1/1 white soldier creature token. I just really like that, she's got her squire, and herself both have the same haircut. Again, with the titty armor, you know, maybe I put the titty armor on purpose. Maybe I like it. Next up, Mentor of the Meek. You know, he's some necessary card draw in this deck. Whenever one of my little guys enters, as long as I don't have too many of those give your creatures +1/+1, I'm going to be able to pay one and draw a card. Got the Soul Ring. You have to have it. The Hall of Triumph. I'm going to pick white every single time, and then I'm going to give white creatures +1/+1. And it actually has Elspeth in the artwork there, so it's a perfect card for this deck. Well of Lost Dreams. I mean, there's plenty of times when I'm healing life in this deck, and with this card, every time I heal life, however much life I heal, I can pay up to that much mana and draw that many cards. So this is a great card in this deck. Here's probably the most toxic card that I added to this deck, Smothering Tithe, another $40 card that I'm just not going to buy. And before we get into what it does, again, I'm so proud of how this card turned out, just with the watercolor work in the background, and then as well with the handwriting. It just looks amazing. So whenever an opponent draws a card, if they don't pay 2 mana, I make a artifact that taps for 1 mana of any color. So I'm just going to be getting a huge advantage off of other people drawing cards if they don't pay for it, which oftentimes they don't, because, you know, that's really annoying. 2 mana for each card, and sometimes they're drawing more than 1 card a turn. So that's just a lot to deal with. So in a mono white deck, it's really important that you have some form of mana ramp, gaining extra mana that you shouldn't have. And Smothering Tithe is one of the best ways to do that in the entire game. And that's why it's a $40 card, and that's why I made one for myself. Next up, we have Trap Runner. This is kind of an interesting card in this deck. It is a human soldier, even though it doesn't say human on it. But I tap it I tap this card so that a target attacking unblocked creature becomes blocked. So, I mean, that's just really good, you know? There's plenty of ways to make other creatures unblockable. Or better yet, I just don't have to sacrifice one of my own creatures to block someone else's creatures. I can just tap Trap Runner, and I don't know, it's just a really good card. I'm surprised that I've never seen it played before. So, you know, I went ahead and played it myself. Our main homeboy, Audric, with the well, can it focus? There we go. Audric with the holographic eyes. There they are. You see that? Yeah, he's a badass. He's also one of the sort of win conditions for this deck, because whenever he and 3 other creatures attack, I get to decide who blocks and how they block. And that also includes whether or not they block. So I'll let you do the math in your head there. Selfless Squire. Now here's one of the 1/4 cards that I proxied. I'm also super proud of how this artwork, or how this watercolor turned out. I think it matches the background really, really good. And I think that the artwork matches the title Selfless Squire really, really good. So, you know, I'm just super happy about it. You flash this creature in when you're about to take a bunch of damage. She prevents all that damage, and then she gets that many 1/1 counters. It is not uncommon with my decks to make a 100 power Hydra. It's not uncommon. I flash this in when I'm getting swung upon with one of those. All of a sudden, I'm the one with the 100 power creature. So really cool. It's really cool. The Hero of Bladehold. She's pretty nice. Whenever she attacks, she makes, you know, 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, also tapped and attacking, and then she gives every other attacking creature +1/+0 when she attacks. So she perfectly synergizes with this deck. She is absolutely a must-have for this deck. Another equipment here, the Sword of Vengeance. This is a really nice equipment to have in the deck because it gives my equipped creature +2/+0, first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste. Especially with that haste, there's a couple creatures in this deck that I really want to attack this turn. And it's also super nice to give vigilance and trample in this deck because there is no other trample. So as long as you have blockers, you're going to be able to sort of slow me down until I get those flying angels or the trample. Next up, we got the Lightning Greaves. You gotta have them. What soldier doesn't want to run faster? Paladin class. As you level this thing up, it gets better and better for this deck. At level 2, creatures get +1/+1, and then at level 3, it just gets insane. One of your attacking creatures gets double strike and +1/+1 for each other attacking creature. So kind of a mouthful, but that's actually hugely important. Angel of Glory Rise. Now, this is a really nice card. Just look at the way they did the holographic on this card. So nice. So nice. And I mean, she is packing an absolutely massive set of wings behind her. And when she enters the battlefield, she returns all humans back to the battlefield and exiles all zombies. So this card is really nice to lay down when you're playing against a zombie deck. It's especially satisfying, but it's also extremely nice to get all of your humans back from the graveyard. It's a great recursion card in this deck. Really, really like that one. The Angelic Skirmisher. So at the beginning of each combat, including my opponent's, I can choose First Strike, Vigilance, or Lifelink and give that to all of my creatures. So, if people are swinging away at me, I'm just going to give myself a huge advantage. I'm going to block anyways, but I'll give myself either First Strike or Lifelink so that I can block much more effectively. And then, if it's my turn to attack, maybe I give them Vigilance so that I can block again next turn. She's a great card to have. The True Believer, he's pondering his pyramid. You can't be the target of spells or abilities, and he is a human cleric, so he does benefit off of some of the human synergies in this deck. Really, really cool card. Super pretty. I much prefer this card to some of the other cards that give you as a player Shroud. So, yeah, super like this card. Really pretty. There you have it. The Vanquisher's Banner. And just, yet another anthem. I give all of my creatures of a chosen type +1/+1, but then in addition, whenever I cast a creature spell of the chosen type, I draw a card. So this is a really important card draw and anthem card where it makes all my things stronger and draws me cards. The Fiendslayer Paladin, just a really, really badass human knight. He doesn't do a lot. You can read what he does for yourself there, but he's just really, really cool. That's one of the most cool artworks in the whole deck, in my opinion. Just very, very badass. The Disenchant. I really, really like this Disenchant artwork. It was a must include in my deck. It destroys a target artifact or enchantment. And it's just a really, really cool artwork. Very fitting, I think, for this deck. Another board wipe here, Fell the Mighty. Destroy all creatures with power greater than target creature's power. So, a lot of times I'm either going to be behind and target someone else's creature and destroy everything greater than it, or I'm going to target one of my own little guys and destroy everything greater than it. It's just a nice utility card. It's got a badass lady knight on it, so I thought it really fit the theme of this deck, just slaying all of these demons. Next up, we have Skull Clamp, another really important card draw card for this deck. There's not a lot of ways to draw a card in white, and so you got to have the Skull Clamp. This essentially says, put it onto one of your humans that you make every turn and draw 2 cards. Really good card. Speaking of good card draw, if I make a token, I get to tap this and draw a card. Really good. Linden, whenever a white creature attacks, I gain 1 life. So, all of my human tokens that I create are attacking creatures. So, she gives me great lifelink synergies. And she's, another badass woman. Mongra the Diplomat. This is probably one of my proudest proxies just because of how well the Rebecca Gay artwork fits with the card that I'm proxying. So, it's a Mongra artwork, and just side by side, look at how good the card that I picked out it works so well. This is a great card draw spell. He's a really great human. Basically, whenever anything happens, I draw a card. If an opponent attacks me with 2 creatures, I draw a card. And then if an opponent casts 2 spells in their turn, I draw a card. And last but not least, my copy of Swords to Plowshares. It's the 1997 Championship Edition card. I had to buy it just for the artwork and for the gold border. it's so cool for this deck because obviously all my card sleeves are gold, and so it just fits right in, right at home. Um, and then with another badass woman in the artwork, I just love this card. This is one of the cards that almost brings a tear to my eye with how well it fits with the aesthetic of my deck. Because now that we're at the end of it, I hope you can tell the aesthetic just means everything to me when it comes to this deck. The aesthetic means everything. Um, and then now that I have some of those really powerful proxies, which maybe that's last thing we'll do is just, take a look at my proxies. Just in a set, I think they look really good together. With my powerful proxies, this is a really formidable deck now, and I'm super glad that I made it. I'm super glad that I have it. So go ahead, let me know what you thought of my mono white humans deck. Let me know in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I am excited to see if you guys understood what I was talking about, and if it wasn't too much. So yeah, let me know if you liked this video, because I could definitely do a few more. But that's it. All right. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.